Here's my latest locomotive. It's a GP15-1 California Northern. This video will show you how to install a sound decoder into this locomotive if you ordered the version that is DCC ready. In my case I'm going to use a ESU Loksound decoder, a Loksound Select Direct actually, which is a direct fit for the installed circuit board that is currently inside the locomotive. So without further ado, let's go ahead. We've put the locomotive upside down in a foam cradle, and according to the manual there are 3 screws to remove, although that's not entirely the case with my particular locomotive. The first screw is at the coupler box, the second screw is on the other coupler box, and according to the manual there's a third screw right there, which, don't know if you can see this, but it's not there on my model. As my model is part of the second release of the GP15-1 locomotive by Athearn Genesis, it could very well be that they've upgraded or altered the construction of the model and have actually deemed it satisfactory to have just the 2 coupler box screws, of which this is one, because that one was very close to some air piping and could easily damage some of the detailing, and to be honest, I don't think it's all that necessary either if you hold the shell by the 2 coupler boxes. So let's get the screws out and see what we find inside. Okay, the shell opened relatively easily, although at the front, around the nose, it was slightly stuck. This is something you need to be aware of, and I think it is due to a little bit of glue that in my case is located over there, probably spilled over on the frame. These are the wire leads that go to the ditch lights of this locomotive. It's got a pair of ditch lights both in the rear, over there, and on the front. We now see the original light bulb board with a DCC adapter. You could elect to put another type of DCC decoder in there. Remove this circuit board, take it out and plug another model in. For instance, one of those made by TCS, a T4X would do very well, although that's a non-sound option. We're going to replace this entire board by a make fit model by ESU. First we're going to remove all these wires from the circuit boards, and to do that you have to take off these plastic clips, slide them off and put them aside, and the wires should pull straight out of the circuit board. Make a good note which one is where, because this model is full of wires and you might get easily confused. Right, the internal board has now been removed. And that was relatively straightforward by removing all the little plastic slide-on clips from the respective terminals, and the wires are disconnected from the board. Next, here at the back you'll find a big piece of metal. It's a bit of weight to give the locomotive a little bit of extra weight. That will need to be removed if you want to make this a sound locomotive. To do that, you just have to remove 2 screws, one here and one on the other side. So let's go ahead and do that. Removed the chassis, I've mounted the speaker. Now, in my case, I was lucky enough to be able to use one mounting position, one screw, to mount the speaker housing with, because my speaker has 4 screw holes. One of them will fit on the chassis, and it's actually more than strong enough to hold it in place there, so I'll leave it like that. In your case, depending on the speaker, you might have to make a little styrene support which supports your speaker, or mount it in the shell somewhere in the roof area over here. In this case that wasn't necessary, and I can just keep it with the locomotive chassis. There's plenty of air below it, so this one should sound pretty good, but we'll find out when it's done. The ESU board comprises of two parts. You've got the main board, that's the same size as the original circuit board, and a plug-in board that goes right on top. I leave this off so not to damage, because that's where all the delicate electronics will be on. And I've started to solder on the wires that came off from the motor on the original board. Take good note of the polarity, because otherwise your engine will run in the reverse direction, and that's certainly not what you would like to do, I would assume. I've now soldered on the wires for the tracks, the motor, track at the rear, so it's the rear truck, and I've added two blue wires, new ones, to go to the speaker. Next will be the lights. The front two pads here are for the headlights. These are for the rear lights. Here on the side we've got several auxiliary outputs. These could be used for ditch lights, roof beacons, etc. And then here 1, 2 universal main positive buses. ESU has been nice enough to prepare all outputs for LED use. However, it's not necessary to use LEDs for these. You could use the stock headlight bulbs, incandescent bulbs. For now I'm going to do that because I haven't got enough LED bulbs available. So you need to bypass the already present resistors on the boards. Therefore you need to put solder on these little tabs next to each little resistor. I hope it's visible, and those are the two for the headlights, and then further towards the rear here are two tabs to bridge for the rear lights. So I'm gonna go ahead and put solder on those tabs to bridge the adjacent surface mount resistors. In that case I could shoot, and then I could connect the headlights straight away. The spaghetti is getting bigger. I've now soldered all the headlight, ditch light and roof beacon wiring back on, and I've also bridged the various pads to enable the board to drive normal light bulbs directly. All that remains to be done now is to plug in the other circuit board in this spot and then put the hood back on. And here we see the completed board with the actual heart for the electronics on board. The final step after assembly is of course to program the locomotive. I'm doing this with the means of Decoder Pro running on an old laptop, right below here. Been programming a speed table and all the other stuff, and currently you can hear the loco busy being programmed. In the next video we'll show you it in action on the layout. I hope you found this useful.